real reason Scarlett Johansson abandoned her trans role. This is the story, of course, of the actress Scarlett Johansson, who was going to play a transgender role in a movie. And when it was announced, they were faced, and she was faced, with a barrage explosion of abuse from the transgender lobby. And the transgender lobby, which is overwhelmingly made up of activists rather than often real transgender people, are a tyranny, an absolute tyranny, who think they can impose their will on everyone else and prevent anyone having another opinion. So this story says there is so much euphemistic reporting about Scarlett Johansson's decision to drop out of a film as a result of this abuse, in which she would have portrayed a trans man. Miss Johansson quits role headlines tell us she stepped away from trans role. That's what we were told. It all makes it sound, the article says, like she had a simple change of heart, or maybe found herself drawn to a different movie project. The truth is rather different. The truth is that Miss Johansson has been hounded out of the trans role by an intolerant online mob hurling invective at her. You know what is absolutely fundamentally necessary to stop this tyranny completely demolishing freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, and freedom of action. It's to stop walking away and stop apologizing. Apologizing for what? For having an opinion? For accepting a role that you were offered? The arrogance of it, the tyranny of it. And you're only going to stop it if you don't bow to it. You don't walk away, you do the role. You don't apologize for your opinion just because an hysterical mob start giving you abuse. If you're going to bow down and apologize, where's me sackcloth? Oh, throw in some ashes. Every time you're abused by the mob, well, who rules? The mob. And of course, one of the big targets of this mob, this mindless mob, is famous people. Because if they can get famous people to get on their knees and apologize and promise never to do it again, like have an opinion that the mob doesn't like, then it's a massive warning to all the rest of the population that isn't famous that, hey, see what happens if you take us on, see what happens if you say something we don't like. And it's about intimidating them people into silence. I think it's fair to say I'm not bowing to it. The very thought. Anyway, Miss Johansson did. And I don't understand it. You don't want abuse, but I mean, live with it. It's more important taking abuse and standing by your principles or appeasing the frickin' mob. Anyway, the story goes on. She didn't merely quit the role. She quit the role under pressure from an unforgiving gang of identitarians who think they have the right to tell actresses who they may or may not portray on screen. Here's a more honest headline for this affair, this article says. Woman forced to give up her job by online abusers, which is exactly the story. Miss Johansson had been quite keen to star in Rub and Tug, a biopic of a 1970s Pittsburgh mobster. Maybe I was Freudian slipped there with monster, but anyway, Pittsburgh mobster called Dante Tex Gill. Born a woman, Gill reportedly adopted the identity of a man, though this is disputed by some, in order that he might better flourish in the seedy world of 1970s massage parlors and prostitution. Now, here's a point to make here. This Dante Tex Gill is said to have been a transgender person who adopted the identity of a man, even though she was born a woman, and she was a mobster. Well, he, whichever you prefer, was a mobster. And mobsters are generally not very nice people. But today, you can't criticize anyone who's transgender for being not very nice. Or you're not supposed to. Watch me. Because they're transgender. Not because of their personality. You're not judging them on their behavior, no matter what sexual background they come from, because I don't give a damn what people choose to be. I give a damn when it's imposed on anyone else. And instead of looking at behavior and saying, I don't like that, I don't like that, I do like that, you can't criticize people today for what they do if they're transgender, because you are transphobic. This is a defense mechanism to allow anyone who is transgender to do what they bloody like. Not in my life, they won't. Anyway, Miss Johansson, or Ms., as the article says, Johansson, is known for taking on quite daring film projects, and she previously worked with Rub and Tug's director, the British guy Rupert Sanders. So it made sense and sounded quite exciting that she signed up to play the role. But it wasn't to be. Trans activists and their online allies, because it's all orchestrated, these networks have orchestrated abuse, decided that because Ms. Johansson is a cis woman, i.e. born a woman and living as a woman, she has no right to play a trans person. To be cis is to identify as the gender you were assigned with at birth. Yes, identitarians really think we are assigned our genders rather than, simply being born as actual males or females. For a cis woman to play a trans person is akin to a white actor blacking up, some suggested. So transgender people can't play non-transgender people then. So if you're a transgender actor or actress, you can't play. Surely you can't, by this definition. You can't play anything but transgender roles. Otherwise, you are committing identity theft, in effect, of a group that you are not part of. But you see, I may have lived a long time and missed the point, but I thought that actors and actresses were supposed to act. They're supposed to act parts that is not them. That's what acting is, but not in the insane world of transgender activism. Now, on the same subject, one or two stories in this area this week. Government dropped doctor who says gender given at birth. A doctor has been sacked as a medical assessor for a government department after refusing to renounce his Christian belief that gender is determined at birth. Dr. David Makareth has worked for 26 years as a National Health Service doctor in Britain, but was told he could not be employed as a Department for Work and Pensions disability assessor if he refused to identify patients as being of a sex that they did not see themselves as. The 55-year-old father of four believes sex is genetic and biological, so established at birth. He now claims his right to freedom of speech, whatever happened to that, has been denied, and he has been classed unfit to work for the department because of his religious convictions. And the medic from Dudley in the West Midlands fears many other professional people of faith could also be dismissed simply for holding opinions about gender that are centuries old. Now, it basically has nothing to do with faith. It has to do with someone's opinion. And if someone has an opinion that gender is defined at birth, then that opinion is just as valid in terms of the right to have it as someone who says gender is only what you decide it is. And clearly, frankly, hello, it isn't. People born into male bodies don't have breasts. They have different reproductive organs. Hello, we're being given a clue here. Now, if people feel they're in the wrong body, that's another thing. That's completely up to them. And they should deal with it as they choose to deal with it and be supported in dealing with it. Because that's not what this is all about. This is about imposing it on everyone else. But just because they believe, or others believe, that you can just decide, I'm in a woman's body, but I'm a man, or vice versa, so people can have another opinion that says, I don't agree with that. Otherwise, we're living in a tyranny, which is what the trans activist mobsters and abusers are seeking to do. Extraordinary stuff. What is happening in regard to this, and it's not just about trans activism. It's about looking at just one front on the war against freedom of speech and freedom of opinion. Now, another story on the same subject. Vegan group sparks backlash for saying chemical pollutants make people gay and transgender. A vegan group, because a vegan group you'd think that was all very progressive, and so they're good, the vegan group. But you can be a group within what is called the progressive mentality and still say the wrong thing about some group that is higher in the hierarchy than you in the progressive mentality, because it's a hierarchy of victimization. And of course, when you are, when your whole modus operandi is claiming to be victimized, even in areas where you're not, as what you claim was victimization starts being removed, you still have to look for more and more ways of being victimized. And so what happens is, what you say you're victimized by becomes more and more ludicrous in your desperation to find something to be victimized by when the ones you claimed before can no longer be quoted. Anyway, a vegan group has sparked outrage for saying being gay or transgender is not a natural and healthy lifestyle choice. And it's an opinion, and is caused by synthetic chemical pollutants. Pembrokeshire Vegan Organic, a group which promotes awareness of a vegan and organic plant-based diet and lifestyle option, has been bombarded with negative reviews on its Facebook page in the wake of the comments. While the Welsh group's original post has now been deleted, I'm terribly sorry, I had an opinion that's different to yours, I'll remove it. Usual story, the mob wins. Personal replies the group fired off to its critics can still be seen on the page. When people understand that sexual development problems are caused by synthetic chemical pollutants, then they can accept how teaching gender in schools is promoting the most backwards and corrupt system possible, said the original post, which triggered a backlash. The promotion of gay and trans is the promotion of sexual development disorders caused by environmental pollutants and media and educational manipulation. It continued the promotion of homosexuality and gender to children tries to promote the view that transgender and homosexuality are natural and healthy lifestyle choices, which is not true. It is not clear what the vegan group means by teaching and promoting gender, but it insists teaching gender was wrong and will harm and confuse children. Well, what it means, quite obviously, is promoting transgender as a lifestyle that doesn't come just from, I think I'm in the wrong body, but is a promotion of that lifestyle and becoming that lifestyle. Now, I look at this story, and the point is this: are all gay people and transgender people gay and transgender because of synthetic gender-bending chemicals in God knows what these days? It's getting bigger all the time. Every time you pick up a till receipt, you're absorbing a gender-bending chemical. Same with plastics and plastic bottles. So the question is everybody who is gay and transgender, are they so because of gender-bending chemicals? And the answer is no. Everyone is not gay or transgender because of gender-bending chemicals. Again, it's a black and white, this is how it is, and any other explanation is invalid because this is how it is. But do gender-bending chemicals, which, to state the frickin' obvious, affect gender-distinct hormones, which is why testosterone's going down so fast around the world, and sperm counts, by the way, does that have an effect on people's gender and sense of gender? When you have fish changing sex because of rivers and streams polluted by gender-bending chemicals. You see, we live in this black and white world where everything's this or everything's that, and there's nothing in between. So here you have the trans lobby, etc., saying gender-bending chemicals have no effect on people's gender and the way the body produces hormones, etc., that become gender-specific and gender-directing. And you've got this vegan group saying that basically it's that's doing it. When the answer, as always, is in the shades of grey in between. But the shades of grey, which is where I'm coming from on almost everything, are lost in this polarization of it's all this or it's all that. And it's manipulated because they want this black and white confrontation. So the truth will never be found because the truth is in the shades of grey. And just finish on this subject before we move on to another one. Manchester Students' Union, when I say the subject, I'm talking about what have become known as snowflake activists. Manchester Students' Union staff paint over Rudyard Kipling's If, it's a poem for people who haven't come across it, in protest against racist poet. Students' Union representatives have painted over a famous Rudyard Kipling poem at the University of Manchester in a protest against racist and imperialistic literature. Kipling's poem If was replaced by the Students' Union executive team with Still I Rise, a black poet and civil activist, Maya Angelou, to better reflect the union's values. The union representatives decided to immediately remove Kipling's words, which had been painted on the wall by a hired resident artist, from the Students' Union building at the University of Manchester. Sarah Khan, Liberation and Access Officer at the union, liberation, do what we say, be liberated. Liberation and Access Officer at the union, said students were not consulted on the decision to display Kipling's poem, which concerns paternal advice to the speaker's son. They decided to take the action when they saw the artwork, not because they disagree with the sentiment of If, which has a quote inscribed above the entrance of Wimbledon Centre Court, but out of opposition to Kipling's other colonialist texts. In a Facebook post, Ms. Khan wrote, "We as an exec team believe that Kipling stands for the opposite of liberation, empowerment and human rights, the things we at the Students' Union stand for." Yes, because you're virtue signalers and all wonderful, and aren't you wonderful people, imposing your will on everyone else and calling it liberalism. The point is this. The poem is a great poem. It's saying basically all the things that are thrown to you in life, the good and the bad, the challenges and the nice things. Take them together. If you can basically laugh in the face of fear. It's not the words, but this is the theme. You are a man, my son. By the way, it says you are a man, my son, so maybe they're going to have a problem with that in some of these other progressive groups, because the word man is now persona non grata. Now, it's a poem. And if you are going to choose what poems are used on the basis of the person's life and not on the nature of the poem and what it says, we're back to Hitler again, you see. We're back to Hitler walking down the street saying, what a beautiful sunny day, and people saying, no, it's pouring down with rain, even though it isn't, because Hitler said it, so it must be wrong. Instead of looking at the poem as a poem, which are great words, you've got to take it down because he was a racist. Well, most people were bloody racist back then. Take them all down. And why? Why, instead of replacing it with the poem Still I Rise by a black poet and civil rights activist, why don't you put them both up? Wouldn't that be a way? Why do you have to choose between one and the other? Put them both up. It's what's called freedom of expression. But then again, you have to be increasingly aged to remember what that means.